Hey guys, my name is Shane, or Sicsen on YouTube, and I know this isn't really my typical filming setup, I guess, but that's because I'm home now for Christmas, and it's actually, let's see, it's 1:08 in the morning, and this is a video that I kind of been wanting to film for a little while, and I just figured, like, why not do it now at 1 in the morning? And this is my cat Farley. So I apologize for like the ratchetness of this video. I'm literally sitting like on my floor and I have my camera propped up on a table in front of me. This is just gonna be like a, not super high quality video where I explain some things, clear the air. So if you don't know me, if you're new here, my name is Shane, like I said, and I'm a 20-year-old trans guy, female to male. I just wanted to explain why I went from being non-binary to being a trans guy, because when I first came out, I think I came out this year back in like April or May. I made a video about it. I'll link it in the description because I'm not gonna take it down, but it is kind of outdated and it's not really the same way that I feel now. So that's why I'm making this video. I'm making this video to explain why some of the things that I said in that video don't really apply to me anymore. So if you don't want to go watch that video, then I'll just explain briefly what I said. I came out as being trans, which is true. I am trans, obviously. Like, I was born a girl, obviously not a girl anymore. Also, side note, if you're gonna come here and like hate and be like, oh, you can't be transgender, you can't change your genders, then like, I'm literally like, look at me, like, do I look like a girl to you? Like, you're wasting your time. I'm not gonna detransition because of your comments. So anyways, I said that I was trans, masculine, non-binary, and if you're not really familiar with those terms, like basically non-binary is gender non-conforming, or I guess agender, and transmasculine is basically when you're born female and you identify as gender non-conforming, but you still are transitioning to become more male appearing through hormones or even social transitioning or surgery or whatever. So by the way, just a side note, I am almost 6 months on T and almost 5 months post-op. So a lot of people tend to think that when somebody is transgender, they always knew their entire life that they were trans, and it's just like a thing that people realize when they were like 5 years old, and then they end up just transitioning when they can or when they're able to or whatever. But like, that's not the case for everyone. Just because not everyone realizes it as quickly as other people doesn't mean that they're not as valid or whatever. Because for me, growing up, I was never really super concerned with my gender. Like, I kind of just, people told me I was a girl. I knew that I was, a girl, or that I was born a girl, and so I was like, okay. Like, I didn't even realize that that could be changed until like, way later on. And so I kind of just took it and accepted it because I figured it was just like, one of those things that I thought it was like the kind of like same thing as being, half Mexican, which is what I am. Like, I was like, okay, well, that's me. Can't change it, so I'll just live with it. And anyway, like when I was growing up as a kid, like there wasn't really anything that made me feel differentiated in terms of gender. Like, I had gender neutral interests for the most part. I hung out with boys and girls growing up, and it wasn't really a problem until I started getting into high school. And that's when I realized that I liked girls, and so that's when that became a problem. And I think the whole gender thing, like I still at this point wasn't even considering, the fact that maybe I wasn't a girl, but I was really hung up on the fact that I liked girls because I knew that, gay and lesbian people existed, and I didn't hate them, but I didn't want to be one of them. So my freshman year of high school, I realized that I liked girls, and I immediately knew that I only liked girls because I was like, of course, like, it's so obvious, like, it makes so much sense. Like, I am a lesbian because, I used to identify as a girl. However, it was hard for me to go from, being straight, I guess, because like, I never outwardly said like, yeah, I am straight, because like, in society it's straight until proven otherwise. So I found it very difficult to go from being straight to being a lesbian, because it's just like, going from here to here. And for myself personally, and not let alone anyone else, I found it really hard to accept that. So in an effort to kind of take it slower with myself and also take it slower with telling everyone else, I started coming out as bisexual, even though like deep down I knew, I was like, I'm definitely not bisexual. I don't see myself ever getting with a man later on or whatever. But I still came out as bisexual because I kind of used it as a stepping stone from going from straight to lesbian. In between is kind of bisexual, and I felt that when I came out as bisexual, I would be a little bit more accepted, and then once everyone got used to me being bisexual, I could be like, well, actually, I'm just a lesbian. So I did that, and I tried telling myself that I was bisexual, but you know, a couple months passed, and then I was like, okay, actually, everyone, like, just kidding, not bisexual. So that didn't really take long, but the reason why I am telling you this is because it's kind of the same thing with my whole gender journey. So like throughout high school, I kind of had like some notions that, you know, maybe I didn't feel like a girl, and I was like, but like being a guy to me just didn't seem like the right answer either, because I don't know, like it just seemed like such a huge change. And of course, at that point I knew about trans people, and it was just like the same cycle. Like back when I was, you know, in middle school, I was like, I knew about gay people, but I didn't want to be one. So like, you know, when I was in high school, I knew about trans people, but I didn't want to be one. I didn't know anyone who was trans. So I barely knew anything about the whole transitioning process. Like I had seen videos on YouTube. I remember in high school like spending so much time on YouTube just watching all these like female to male transitioning videos, and I thought it was so incredible how like the appearance of someone could change so drastically just because of hormones, and like the voice of some people. I thought it was crazy, and I knew that me watching those videos like all the time was kind of questionable, but I was like, you know what, this isn't something that I want to deal with right now, and it isn't something that I'm ready to deal with, obviously. So I kind of just pushed it to the back of my head, and I was like, you know, maybe I'm just neither, like maybe I'm just gender non-conforming or something. But like I kind of just kept that to myself because I felt that it wasn't really necessary to go like tell anyone, really, because I didn't feel the need to, you know, change my pronouns. Like I never really liked they them pronouns, just personally for me. One of the major flaws of the English language is that we don't have any, you know, gender neutral pronouns except for they them, which isn't like, sometimes in, you know, sentences and grammar wise it gets confusing, and it was just never for me. So I figured that it was like, you know, something to think about, but just not something for that time. And so like, you know, throughout high school I did some things that were like very obviously, like now looking back I was like, of course I was trans, like come on. Like I think my sophomore year of high school I bought a binder for the first time, and I started binding my chest, and I cut my hair short and everything, and I thought that I was maybe gender fluid at that point. I thought that, you know, maybe some days I felt more like a boy and maybe some days I felt more like a girl, but I was still very inconsistent with like, you know, my identity that way, and I just for the most part just didn't even want to deal with it. So I continuously called myself a lesbian, and I didn't tell anyone about the whole gender fluidity thing. And so now I'm just gonna like fast forward until this year, 2018. So for a long time, like probably all of last year, I had been basically trying to go away from the whole masculine side of me, and I, you know, like I started growing out my hair. I grew it out to like probably shoulder length, and I remember a point where I was like, okay, I'm gonna get rid of all of my masculine clothing, and so I did, and I tried, you know, buying more feminine looking clothing because I figured that, you know, I was a girl, and I noticed that, of course, you know, in society, when you're a girl and you're more feminine and you're more pretty, then people usually tend to like you more, which is like fucked up, obviously, but like that's, I wanted people to like me. I wanted to be the person that I thought everyone wanted me to be, so that's why I was doing that. And so that's how I started the beginning of this year, like with long hair. I was just like trying to be super feminine. Like that's just because I was like so deep in denial about myself that it was like insane. Like I tried deleting, like, you know, all pictures from when I had short hair and looked more androgynous or whatever. I tried saying that I was like, I always liked being feminine and whatever, but I was obviously kidding myself. But then I think in like March or something, all of a sudden I was like, I just had like a realization, like out of nowhere. I was like, okay, well, yeah, wait, I'm like a trans guy, like of course. And immediately I knew that I was a trans guy and not anything in between. And like, I'm not saying this to like, you know, devalue anyone who's non-binary. I'm not saying that like non-binary doesn't exist or anything. I'm just saying that I'm not non-binary for these reasons, and this is how I kind of went from thinking that I was till now. And so I told myself, I was like, I'm a trans guy, but then it was like the same kind of thing from when I realized that I liked girls. I was like, well, I don't want to go right from, you know, being a girl to being a guy, because that's such a huge difference that I can't even accept accept it myself, that's when I tried looking for like, you know, other identities in between. And that's, you know, when I found out about like non-binary and whatnot. And I actually found somebody on YouTube who they actually identify now as a trans guy like me, but they used to identify as non-binary transmasculine. And so when I found that term, I was like, oh my god, like this is it, this is me. Because basically what trans masculine non-binary means is you're somebody who wants to transition medically to be male or to look male, but still not actually be male and still be kind of in between gender identity wise. And like for me it's still a little bit confusing, but I tried grasping it because I didn't want to go straight from being a cis girl to being a trans guy. Like just it was too much of a jump for me, I guess. And I don't know why, like personally I had so much trouble with like, you know, going from one identity to the other, but obviously that's not the case with everyone, and that doesn't mean that I'm any less valid than anyone else. It's just how it be sometimes. But yeah, I started identifying as non-binary, and that's when I came out in I think like May of this year. And so originally I said that I was like pronoun indifferent and I was okay with any pronouns, but then soon after that I realized that I was like definitely not okay with she pronouns, so I said that I was okay with he him pronouns and they them pronouns. Alright, my camera battery just died, but anyway, so I said that I was okay with he, him, and they, them, but then, like, eventually after that, I guess after a couple weeks or, like, a month or so, I realized that I just, you know, like, I tried out the they, them, and it just didn't work for me, and I realized, like, you know, I wanted to be seen more as a guy in society, especially, like, once I started hormones. The further I got on hormones, the more sure I became about the fact that I'm a guy rather than non-binary, and then I just kind of realized that I used the non-binary thing to be a stepping stone between woman and man. And so I started basically telling everyone that I was close with, like my friends, family, whatever, that I was just a guy. And so then I, like, you know, in my videos, I didn't really make an announcement or anything just saying that I wasn't non-binary anymore, because I didn't think that would be necessary, and I thought that it would be just like confusing for some people. But obviously I have to make a video about it because you know, people have been saying that I'm like non-binary phobic or something because I say that I'm like a man now, and I'm like, okay, well no, I'm not non-binary phobic. Like, you can be non-binary all you want. Like, I will respect you and your identity as long as it's not something ridiculous like star gender or something. I have like friends who are non-binary. It's just something that didn't work out for me because I needed more time to accept myself as a trans guy, and that's fine. So now I only go by he, him pronouns. I refer to myself as FtM, transgender, and I think I use non-binary transmasculine as just a way to get everything that came with being a trans guy, but not actually being a trans guy. At this point, I still don't really, I didn't and I still don't understand non-binary transmasculine. I don't understand the difference between that and just being a regular trans guy, and I'm sure there is, and I'm sure somebody could probably explain it to me in the comments. For me, like, I eventually realized that I didn't understand the difference and that I was just treating myself like a regular trans guy. So I was like, okay, well, I guess it's time for me to just come to terms with the fact that I'm just a trans guy, because I mean, people were calling me man and male and whatever, and I was like, okay, yeah, like that seems accurate. And you know, since being on testosterone for a while and getting surgery, and I am planning to get bottom surgery at some point, probably not anytime soon. I'm hoping that, like, you know, at some point bottom surgery gets a little bit better for trans people, and I might make a video just about bottom surgery because a lot of people don't know about it. Like, for trans women, they might know about it because I feel like that's more talked about in the media, but trans guy bottom surgery just isn't really known about. Like, even within people who are in the LGBT community, like, they don't really know how it works, and some people don't even know that it's a thing that people like me can get bottom surgery, and that's just because it's not as common and it's more invasive and more complicated, and it's just kind of a shit show. But I can talk about it because I've done a lot of research, obviously. I feel like I just went on a huge tangent and I don't even remember what I was just saying. But yeah, this was just like a really long-winded way of me saying that I am a trans guy and I'm not non-binary anymore. Well, I never was, but you know. So like, I thought about taking down my coming out video, but I figured that I would just leave it up because that's the way that I felt at the time. And you know, people figure out their identities as as they go. That's what I did. That's what a lot of other people are gonna do probably, and it's all part of the process. But anyway, yeah, so I'm probably gonna go to sleep soon because it's now 1:30 in the morning, and I mean, like, I'm on Christmas break, I'm at home, so I don't really have any reason to go to bed early, but probably should anyway. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions about this whole thing, then just ask in the comments, and if they're not rude or ignorant or stupid, then I'll answer. See you guys in the next video. Peace.